But I always remembered that. And I learned enough about scouting to the point that hey, look, wild horses. Oh my goodness.
She brought you a gift.
Should this be in the bloopers?
Yeah, right.
Hey, hi.
outtake
How
reel,
you doing?
yeah.
It's good to see you. Oh, the horsemanship merit badge. That's next episode. Sorry. Can you come back?
They just
Can you?
showed up a little early.
Yeah. His eyes are always dry because he never blinks. His tummy never growls because his belly is always full. His name is Griffin, and he's a scout.
Welcome to the Outdoors with ScoutTrek podcast.
Welcome to Outdoors with ScoutTrek. This is our first episode in what we hope is a long series of interesting and helpful content. My name is KW Henley. I'm here with my friend Dave, and we're going to be talking about ScoutTrek. ScoutTrek is a brand that we're building. It's going to have a lot of different directions that we're going to go into, but today we're going to be talking about the ScoutTrek app. So Dave and I are outdoors appropriately here next to a creek, and we're going to just have a conversation, let you learn a bit about me and learn about ScoutTrek, and specifically again today about the ScoutTrek app.
KW, why don't you talk a little bit about, if I'm a viewer to this podcast, I'm obviously going to be new to the podcast since this is our inaugural episode. What can I expect when I hit play? What kind of content are you planning to put out there?
That's a good question, Dave. Like a lot of people, entrepreneurs and people that get involved in different projects, we have a lot of ideas. And some of those will come to fruition. Probably some of them are ideas that may have sounded great at the time on paper, and they might not fully be realized. But we want to provide good content to our scouting community, things that are of interest in scouting. A big part of the DNA is being outdoors. So we want to talk about outdoors types of topics, but we'll probably get into some other stuff as well. There's just a wide range of areas that we could get into with scouting, and we've got a lot of stuff planned. I think the watchers and our listeners are going to want to come back and to get more of that.
Yeah, you were telling me off camera, some of the ideas you had. Product reviews was one of them, I believe.
Yeah, product reviews. I like the idea. This has been a very popular thing you've seen like on YouTube and different things, product unboxing. Well, as you can imagine, in scouting, there's a lot of unboxing products that you could do. Anything from backpacking stoves to backpacks to different types of flint and steel, fire starting solutions, water filtration, all kinds of gear. I thought it'd be cool to do some of those unboxing types of episodes, and obviously we want to bring in scouts because I think our scouting community would be much more interested in seeing the feedback from scouts when they get into some of those products than necessarily they would from adults.
Yeah. Would I have to be involved in scouting to find the content relevant?
No, I don't think so, Dave. Scouting doesn't have a lock on outdoorsiness, right? If that's a word, outdoorsiness, I don't know. But people are involved in doing outdoors events, hiking, backpacking, camping, and it's part of, like I say, scouting's DNA. But some of the topics we're talking about are things that I think people that are interested in doing wilderness camping, backpacking camping, these are all sorts of things that go beyond just scouting.
Right.
Scouting comes from a position, I think, since the program has been around so long, from a position of perhaps authority, could speak with some authority on it as subject matter experts. But I think it's content that people that are interested in outdoors type stuff would be interested in doing.
KW, why don't you tell our listeners what they can expect when they there's lots of podcasts to choose from. They may not know what to expect from Outdoors with ScoutTrek. When they hit play, what kind of content are they going to see?
Well, if you've been involved with scouting at all, you know that there is an endless number of topics that you could hit on. From backpacking to camping, just the merit badges alone, there's 139 of them. I mean, they range anything from outdoor-centric type of merit badges to topics like chemistry, STEM type of subjects. So we're going to be covering a lot of those. Obviously, we're going to try to spend a lot of our time outdoors, but if we're not physically outdoors like we are today, you can count on the topic will be outdoors, helping to facilitate and prepare scouts and adult leaders in scouting to be more successful with the scouting program.
Yeah. Now, am I going to have to be involved in scouting to find this program interesting?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you hike, right, Dave?
I
And you're
do.
not involved in scouting.
Yeah.
I think anybody that does any of the events that are historically scouts have been involved with, which are outdoor stop activities,
Right.
I think they'd benefit from this. You know, we may end up talking about hammocks or kayaks. Well, you know, scouting doesn't have a lock on those types of activities.
Sure.
So we're coming to it from the perspective of scouting, but I think anybody that's interested in those topics would benefit from following this podcast.
Yeah. Why would I tune in and listen to KW? What's your backstory? What's your credibility factor?
I wasn't involved in scouting for many years as a youth. We lived in a very rural area, and my mom volunteered to be a den leader. So I don't even remember if it was tiger or bear, but this was in the early 70s. But I know I was a Cub Scout. In fact, I think I still have my Cub Scout shirt from those days.
Right.
But she was involved in it, and like what happens to a lot of scouting units and the scouting leaders, there wasn't a lot of assistance for whatever reason from other parents, and it really was all on her shoulders. And my mom was a pretty amazing woman, but it was just a lot for her to handle. And we did it one year, and it didn't continue after that. But I always remembered that, and I learned enough about scouting to the point that hey, look, wild horses. Oh my goodness.
She brought you a gift.
Should this be in the bloopers?
Yeah, right?
Hey, hi,
outtake
how
reel.
you doing? It's good to see you. Oh, the horsemanship merit badge. That's next episode. Sorry, can you come back?
They just showed up a little early.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But you were saying
Very friendly.
you were
Do we
saying
continue? What do we
let's
do
continue.
here?
Let's
Okay.
roll.
All right, let's go.
You were-
This is like live. It's not live, but this is like authentic
Exactly.
material here.
Yeah. This is going off script. We're good. You gonna
This is
You're
this
gonna
is like
be-
personal space, isn't it?
right?
You know. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a horsemanship merit badge,
Yeah,
by the way.
there's no etiquette here.
Yeah.
But you were saying you were talking about your personal experience.
Yeah.
As a youth yourself. She's not going to make it easy.
But I was exposed enough to the program in Cub Scouts that one year that I knew that I wanted to, when I eventually had a family, had boys of my own, I wanted them to be a part of it. And then I heard about, even growing up, about scouting, and I was always an outdoorsy type person. So I was like, scouting is the perfect vehicle to see some of those outdoor interests play out.
Right.
I mean, I would have gone hiking and backpacking probably anyway, and then later when I had a family with my boys. But when you're part of a program, a curricula, and you have to do those things, you want to do them, but if it's part of a program, it facilitates those backpacking trips happen a little easier than it would if you just try to work it in. Because as you know, time is a commodity, and you may have the greatest desire in the world to go on that 10-mile hike, but if it's something, there's always going to be something that squeezes in there. So scouting helped facilitate a lot of those events.
Yeah. So how many years were you a leader?
So I'm still a leader. I'm a Scoutmaster for a boy troop in East Tennessee. I've got 2 boys, and my oldest son is an adult, but he started out, this was my first exposure as an adult to scouting many years ago. There was a roundup at a school, and as I said previously, I knew enough about scouting and had a brief introduction to scouting as a youth that I wanted my kids to be involved in it.
Yeah.
So the roundup happened and they were looking for an adult leader to become the den leader. My wife raised my hand to volunteer me, which was fine. I've always been the sort that never wanted to outsource my kids' experiences growing up.
Yeah.
I want it to be, if they're going to be involved in scouting, I'm going to be a den leader, an assistant den leader or something. If they wanted to play soccer, needed a spot, a coach, I would be a coach. I don't know anything about soccer, but I would learn. And at the minimum, I was going to be a parent that was involved and engaged and with them on that journey. But
Yeah.
in scouting, I ended up being a den leader all through Cub Scouts all those years. My oldest son crossed over to the Boy Scouts, became an assistant Scoutmaster for several years. There was a committee chair for a troop, and then had an opportunity to start my own troop. And because of that, it was very enticing to become a Scoutmaster. So to take everything I had learned through Cub Scouts and committee work to become a frontline adult leader
Right.
for a troop.
And at that point, then you had responsibility to organize events, communicate with the troop.
Yeah.
I mean, you were the leader,
Yeah.
which kind of leads us to one of the main things we want to talk about today, and that is the ScoutTrek app.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you take me back? You were telling me earlier, but why don't you share it with the listeners? How did you stumble upon the idea for ScoutTrek?
Well, I think the word stumble is good. It was certainly unintentional.
Yeah.
There are events that have to be planned. Backpacking or camping or Pinewood derbies if you're involved in Cub Scouts. And there's a lot of details to work out with those events.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of communication that has to happen with those events. The unit that I was working with at the time as a troop, where the boys are supposed to lead, as opposed to Cub Scouts, it's all about having a good time. The adults do the leadership.
Yeah.
But once you cross over into the troop level, you really want to pass on that because you're teaching the boys to lead other boys. And now that scouting has become open to girls, you have older girls leading younger girls. So at the time, for the unit that I was involved with as an assistant Scoutmaster, we'd have our weekly meetings on Mondays, and there would be a lot of information that would be talked about. Events would get planned, but then there's things change, and there's updates and revisions and other details that have to be sorted out. So there's communication that has to happen during the week.
Yeah.
So we would meet on a Monday. There would be, say, a camp out planned a couple months from then, and then they would go home, the patrol leaders working with their senior patrol leader to work out all the details around that. And our Scoutmaster at the time, the preferred method of communication outside those regular in-person Monday meetings was email.
Sure.
Well, I think you're like me, Dave. That's a big part of the world I live in, and my real job is email.
Yeah.
But for a young 14-year-old boy patrol leader, he could care less about email. Most of them, they don't like it, right? So there would be a lot of grumbling about it, and I just got one day, I was like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
We couldn't rely exclusively on our Monday meetings to communicate everything. And plus, some of the parents weren't at those Monday meetings.
Sure.
And they had to have visibility on those details.
Right.
Because for our younger scouts who weren't driving yet, the parents obviously are the vehicle to get those scouts where they needed to be.
Yeah.
So naively, is that a word, naively?
Sure.
Naivety? Naively? It is. In a naive manner, I just got on my phone, went to the app store and started looking. There's got to be an app.
Yeah.
I'm like, kids these days are, and this was like 6 years ago, I guess. So we're in 2025. So this was like 2018, 2019, maybe. And there were still plenty of apps back then, right?
Sure.
And so I got on the app stores looking for a solution that would be effective for event planning and management, and would have some sort of mechanism to communicate those details. I just typed into the search field like Scout event management apps or whatever, and didn't see anything. Scrolled, didn't see anything. Scrolled, didn't see. I was like, I changed my search field.
Yeah.
Try different words.
Because you were pretty certain it had to exist.
It had to.
Somebody had.
I mean,
to
nobody
have come
comes up
it.
with a. Nobody comes up in this day and age. It's not like the 17 or 1800s.
Right.
No, there's rarely a brand new idea.
Right.
But looking for an event management communication app that was designed for scouting, that is a brand new idea because there was not one.
Yeah.
I found other things that seemed to work, but nothing specifically for scouting.
Yeah. So, if it was going to happen, it was going to have to be you at that point. and the rest is kind of history.
Well,
you started this down the road of developing this new app, and probably I would imagine even back then, but certainly in the meantime, some other apps have been released that troops have used. Maybe it's Spawned or GroupMe or some of these other apps that might do some of the things, that might be partial solutions. But what is it that sets ScoutTrek apart? Take us back to that moment where you were searching for a solution.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was looking for something that said Scout event planning app or something, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So what I did find, because event management is not something specific to just scouting.
Right.
Any sort of group or team has a need to do that, right?
Yeah.
So there were lots of kind of generic solutions, and a lot of them were designed specifically for sports teams.
Right.
Soccer teams and football teams, dance groups and stuff. But they were generic solutions that anybody could use.
Sure.
In fact, when I'd go to some of their websites, like TeamSnap was one, Spawn was another one, great tools. And they've obviously made a big investment in making these really good, robust solutions. I would look who's using it. And usually it would be, the majority would be like soccer teams and football teams and stuff like that. And occasionally you'd see, a troop was using it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all great. But I really wanted something that was built specifically for scouting, because if you've been involved in scouting for any period of time, scouting is its own world. It's got its own jargon. And there are events that are specific to scouting that you don't see in other places, like Pinewood Derby and stuff. Yeah. And I just thought, I want something built for scouts, built by scouters for scouters, that still accomplishes some of the tools that these other solutions were providing for managing and communication.
So you did find a few scouting troops that were using these generic offerings. What were they using? What kind? Was it a mix of different things? Was it a single solution?
Yeah, and a lot of this came from just research. As I kind of hit a dead end, we could have gone with any of those.
Yeah.
Like TeamSnap or Spawn, we could have gone with those, but I just really wanted one that was designed for scouting.
Yeah.
So I started researching, got onto some online forums, places like Reddit. I started talking to other scout units at camporees, like, hey, we're looking for something. I haven't been able to find anything on the app stores.
Yeah.
What do y'all use? And some of them would say, oh, we use some of these TeamSnap. Or they'd say, oh, well, we use email too. And it's like, how's that working out for you?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, we hate it. The kids hate it. And sometimes we'll have a parent be like, they didn't show up. They're like, oh, I only check that email once a month. You need to use this other email.
Yeah.
But what I also found, Dave, was that oftentimes a scout unit, when I say scout unit, I mean either a Cub Scout pack or a scout troop.
Yeah.
I know Dave knows about scouting, but is not in the trenches.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's why I was talking about some of the jargon defining some of it.
Yeah.
So when I say unit, it could be Cub Scout pack, the younger program, or a troop for the older program.
Yeah.
And what I found oftentimes is that they weren't locked in on a specific solution.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was like this mix and match. It's like,
Sure.
oh, well, we have a website that has a Google Calendar interface with it.
Yeah.
So they go to our website that we built, and they go to Google Calendar. And then for pictures, we have a Facebook page that we upload pictures to the Facebook page. And then for communication, we use Remind or WhatsApp. So it was a different solution, and units were just mixing and matching and finding what worked for them.
Sure. And
So
it might evolve over time.
Yeah, exactly.
It might evolve. I'm not involved in the scouting world, but involved in the sports world,
Yeah.
youth athletics, and that was often the case where they would use email for something, group me for another, and they would try one for a little bit, and maybe some of the families didn't like it, then we'd switch. It became kind of chaotic and sometimes frustrating, and things would get missed, and I imagine that's some of the frustration that you wanted to address.
Yeah, you're right when you say some things would get missed because, as you can imagine, forget about scouting.
Yeah.
If you just say in your corporate job,
Yeah.
if you have different solutions that you're using, well, you're really relying on people checking every one of those, because it might be that something was sent out in an email, but then this particular topic, we're communicating that through this other solution. And it just seemed like it created a lot of holes. And in scouting, and this is true, I know this is true with any sort of sporting events or team where you got parents and you got youth, one of the key things is communication.
Right.
And you're going to lose scouts, you're going to lose parents. You may plan the best camp out in the world, but if people don't know about it, or if they don't know that maybe something's been changed about it, or we're meeting earlier, something like that, it doesn't matter how great that event it was going to be.
Yeah.
If people don't get the details about it, then you're not only going to lose them from participating in that event, you're going to create frustration with parents. Because one thing I've learned as a scout leader is there's three things I think you've got to bring as a leader. And one is energy, one is organization, and one is communication.
Yeah.
And and there's probably more, but those are the three big ones I like to focus on.
Sure.
If you're failing in one of those, you're going to get families that get frustrated and then they drop out.
You didn't find specifically what you wanted, then what?
So at some point, I just came to the conclusion there's nothing out there, either adopting a generic solution that wasn't just for scouts or mix and matching different solutions.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've always been an adventurous guy. I thought, you know what? I'm going to ask around. I did not want to jump head first into building an app for this because I really didn't know for sure, even though it appeared to be that there was a need for it.
Yeah.
I really didn't know, well, maybe people are happy with mixing and matching, or maybe they like these generic solutions. But I thought, you know what? I know enough about it to where I think I want to start dabbling in pursuing or exploring what would be involved in creating an app. So
Yep.
I started researching, very expensive, and decided with so many unknowns, I'm not going to go get a business loan or investors and start building this thing. So what I did was I started asking around some friends, like, who do you know? You know, what I'm looking for is, you know, maybe a young kid who's pretty sharp and looking for some experience that could help them get into college, but at the same time be something that would be a win-win for me financially, to use their enthusiasm and their smartness to start dabbling in building an app. And that's what I did. I found a young man. We started that. We did it for a year or two, and then I had another opportunity to leverage Northeastern University, who had a special computer programming club, and I applied for that, and they took it on for a couple semesters. And then at some point, and this is like 4 years down the road, I mean, I really piddled with this, but along this journey, I kept looking at online forums, talking to people at camporees, and to my surprise, I kept thinking after 3 or 4 years, surely some parent has
Somebody's going to
come into scouting with their new Cub Scout and say, why is there not something?
Yeah.
And to my surprise, it never happened.
Yeah.
So 4 years into this thing, we got to the point where it's like, I have taken this as far as I can. A scout is thrifty. I've taken it as far as I can. At this point, I need some professional help.
Yeah.
So we made the jump in 2024 to seek out some professional resources to help us take it to the next level and get it to the app
This
stores.
would be
And
an app
that's how
developer.
app developer, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Great. So, because it was a process and it didn't just happen overnight, it gave you an opportunity, it sounds like, to continuously talk to people in scouting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you were still a leader at that time, so you had ample opportunity to talk. But you were really able to dial in what was it that would be most helpful,
Yeah.
and to build the app around really a user experience that would deliver really the very best functionality for a scout troop, a scout leader. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? What is Scout specific about ScoutTrek that maybe some of the other generic offerings don't have?
Obviously, as we were developing ScoutTrek, it was not implemented yet. So
Right.
I still had to have a solution for my own troop
Yeah.
that I was now a Scoutmaster for. I knew I wasn't going to do email. So we started using WhatsApp, which is basically a glorified texting solution.
Yeah.
You can add pictures and videos, and it allowed us to kind of limp through and get events to get them communicated out and everything. It also allowed for specific group chats to be created for the leaders
Yeah.
or the PLC, Patrol Leaders Council. And then we would, in parallel with that, I was doing exactly what I didn't want to do, was we'd use that for communication and chat. And then we had a document that we post on Google Drive that had our events that we planned for the year. So while we're developing ScoutTrek, we're also living in this world that we don't want to be in,
Right.
just like everybody else, because
Yeah.
we didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So fortunately, having been in scouting for a while, I really had a pretty good sense of what we needed the app to do.
Right. You came
Right.
at it as a user rather than as a
Yeah,
developer.
yeah, I really did.
Yeah.
And really, I was able to talk to people who weren't even in scouting. Most parents who have kids, they are involved in some sort of extracurricular activity, right?
Right.
So I could say to somebody, a good friend who wasn't in scouting, say, your kid is in mixed martial arts. What's important to you as a parent for that school as they plan events and communicate that? What do you need? And so I was able to leverage a lot of advice, not just from the scouting community, but also
Right.
just from any parent who every parent needs to be communicated with, whether
Yeah.
you're talking about teachers or whether you're talking about sports clubs.
Yeah. Yeah. So communication, organization, two of the main tasks of a leader you mentioned.
Yeah.
How does ScoutTrek facilitate that?
Well, once you get to the troop level, a big thing, as I mentioned earlier, is you need the youth to be leading other youth. So
Yeah.
it needed to be something that the youth had access to. And as you know, we live in a world, this has changed since we were kids. We didn't even have cell phones when we were
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
But more and more kids at younger and younger ages are getting phones. So that was the first step, is if we want the kids to use it, which if the adult is doing all the leading, then really you're not in a BSA troop, you're in a Cub Scout path, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that all troop level adults battle with, because if you're in a leadership role in a troop, most likely it's because you have some sort of passion for leadership. And it's a constant battle to pull that back and let the youth lead.
Sure.
So it had to be a tool that the youth had access to. Had this been 20 years ago, when a lot of youth didn't have phones, it wouldn't have worked. But in
Right.
this day and age, most youth have phones that they can use and have an app that they could download and use, like ScoutTrek.
So I download the app. What does it do for me?
Yeah, we tried to not overcomplicate it. When this thing was starting to get developed on paper, I just had all these ideas that were flooding of what it could do and enhancements and different features. Because again, if you've lived in that world, you have a good sense of where those pain points are and
Right.
what you need something like this to do for you.
Yeah.
There had to be a lot of restraint to not get too carried away. I mean, we had a budget, so we wanted to accomplish the core features, but kind of tuck away these ideas that we think would eventually enhance the product for people.
Yeah.
So we tried to focus on what is the core mission of ScoutTrek. Well, it's why I got into this. It was to create events, to manage those events, to be reminded about those events, and have some sort of chat mechanism where people can ask questions and get questions answered
Right, 'cause
about those events.
These events are fluid.
Yeah,
Information
exactly.
is changing. You had to have a tool that would keep pace with that.
And sometimes an event will get planned,
Yeah.
like, oh, we've got 3 scouts that need a 10-mile hiking trip for their hiking merit badge.
Yeah.
That's got to get done, and we need to do that in May. We've got a date for it, but we don't know where we're going to go. So there were some, like you say, fluid, where there could be changes, but also it might be that an event needs to be on the calendar so parents and the scouts can plan on it.
Yeah.
But we're going to fill in the details later. We
Right.
don't know where we're going to go. We got to go somewhere and get a 10-mile hike because it's required, but we need to at least get it on the calendar, because that is the big thing. We have some families that they plan their family calendars out a year in advance.
Yeah.
And if we're planning events a month at a time, then that really is a point of frustration for people.
Right.
And it will contribute to low participation too. Because then all of a sudden we say, oh, we're going to go on this hike in 2 weeks. Well, little Johnny and his family have planned to go wherever. And had they known about that 10-mile hike, they could have planned around it.
Right. Right.
So the core thing was to get events on the calendar as a first step.
Okay. So there's a calendar function.
Mm-hmm.
What other functions?
Well, if you just play this out, there's questions about types of events.
Yeah.
Some events have questions about, we talked about hiking, about distance.
Yeah.
People need to know, is this a 5-mile hike? And the hiking merit badge, the pinnacle of that merit badge is the 20-mile hike.
Right.
And there's a big difference between preparing for a 5-mile hike and obviously a 20-mile hike.
Yeah.
So the event has to be able to have those sorts of details included as the patrol leader or senior patrol leader is planning that on the calendar.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Another thing is you plan the event, you put it on the calendar, and people need to be reminded about it. So we created functionality where 5 days before the event, 3 days before the event, and then 1 day before the event, there's a push notification reminder
Okay.
that says, hey, in 3 days is our
Yeah.
Monday troop meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
people can still go in, and we hope people would do this. I do this. And again, I'm approaching it as an end user.
Right.
I go in to look to see what's coming up next and not waiting on that reminder. But that reminder is a big thing.
For a busy family.
People
Yeah,
like that.
I bet. All right. What else?
Yeah, so event management, reminders about those,
Yeah.
having it be fluid to where if there was a change that it could happen. Something that happens, this may seem minor, but if you live in the scouting world, it's a big deal. And this is a place where I think there was some deficiency in some of the other apps that I saw, the generic apps, is sometimes you'll say, well, we're going to go on a 10-mile hike, and we are going to start that hike at the trailhead.
Yeah.
Say we're going in the Smokies. We live near the Smokies, so Alum Cave is a popular one. We're going to meet at the Alum Cave Trailhead is where that event is going to start. But maybe we're going to meet somewhere else before the event and have breakfast. Or we're going to meet at Chick-fil-A and have breakfast because everybody needs to have some food in their belly before we go on this long hike.
Yeah.
So just adding in the option to have a meet time and a meet place that we come and then we travel and the event actually starts at this time at this place. Little things like that that might seem minor, but for planning purposes, it's a big deal.
Right. Yeah, I imagine coming to it from a user standpoint really allowed you to kind of hone in on where those pain points might be and what might be helpful. You were also telling me, again off camera, obviously one of the purposes of ScoutTrek is to consolidate all of the different mixing and matching into a single solution.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, but a single solution that was very Scout specific.
Mm-hmm.
So I know one of the important, I think, safeguards, especially in the last decade or so, is youth protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how that's built into the app.
So youth protection is a big deal in scouting, as it should be.
Yeah.
Really in any sort of adult youth organization.
Right.
But in scouting, we make an extra effort to prioritize that. There are policies in place that specifically say an adult should not meet one-on-one with a youth.
Yeah.
Okay? Or an event that you plan must have two deep leadership, we call it, two deep. One adult, I can't decide to take 10 scouts on a backpacking trip,
Yeah.
right? Why? Well, what if something happens to me? If we have that backup, 2 people, it reduces the chance that you might have 10 scouts that are stuck in the backwoods
Yeah.
and don't have any sort of adult leadership to guide them. So there's that part of it. But specifically, the one-on-one. No one-on-one private meetings between an adult and the youth.
Yeah.
Well, as time has evolved and cell phones have come about, and you have social media, and you have texting and all that, those chat types of features, it created a new challenge in that, well, what about private one-on-one communication?
Yeah.
Fortunately, the BSA has addressed that and has in their guide to safe scouting specific language to provide some structure and guidance for scouting units on that topic.
Yeah. So I can't, if I'm a leader and I'm using ScoutTrek or an adult, I can't have a one-on-one conversation through the app with the scout.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've built logic in from the very beginning that prevents that. We try not to gather any more information than we need to.
Right.
But if you're going to have an account in ScoutTrek, you are going to need to put your birthday in. And the reason the birthday is needed is because the app needs to know whether you are an adult or whether you are a youth.
Yeah.
And if you are an adult trying to communicate with a youth through the chat feature, which that's one of the core functionalities of ScoutTrek,
Yeah.
you will be presented with a message that basically says, in compliance with YPT or youth protection, that one-on-one digital communication is prohibited.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that communicating is big, it's important, but you can do that within the context of a group chat, which there's functionality to allow the creation of a group chat.
Yeah.
I can't create a group chat just with me and a youth. My son, my youngest son, is in our troop. I couldn't go into the app right now and message him directly because ScoutTrek says this is an adult trying to communicate privately one-on-one with a youth. It could care less whether he's my son or not, but that was important. It is important, and we wanted to make sure we cover that in ScoutTrek, because that was actually one of the things I heard from people that said, we're using this other app. It's not designed for scouting, but one of the things that we're seeing is there's a gap.
Yeah.
There is a shortfall in that area where they don't have the youth protection in place that they need to.
Right. Right. So that's smart. So the app has the robust functionality, which really allows open communication. As information changes, you're able to get immediate notifications, and yet at the same time, it also protects the youth. Sounds like a great solution. I guess we should cover the basics. Where can I find this app?
Yeah.
Are there already some troops out there using it?
Yeah. Our troop goes to a different summer camp every year.
Yeah.
And we're based out of Tennessee, so we've been to a couple in Tennessee, been to Virginia. We went to Georgia last year, Camp Woodruff in Blairsville, Georgia. And we would have gone to a different one this year, but our scouts loved it so much and they made the decision they wanted to go back. So kudos, shout out to Camp Woodruff Scout Reservation in Blairsville, Georgia. You sold our scouts, they want to come back. So we'll be back there in 2025. But last year when we were there, we were right on the edge of finishing up ScoutTrek and it going to the app stores.
Yeah.
So I actually made an announcement there to the Scoutmaster meeting, looking for units that might be interested in beta testing it when it did come out.
Right.
So we have a lot of units around the Georgia area because there were a lot of Georgia troops that came to Woodruff, and so a lot of units around that area that are using it.
Serving as pilot.
Yeah, pilot
Test.
units.
Yeah, pilot units.
But then there were a few other key features I wanted to include in it before we started marketing it out to everybody.
Yeah.
And so outside those recruitment for beta units, we didn't publicize or market the app in any way. I mean, it was on the app stores, but unless you were looking for it or just stumbled upon it, you didn't hear about it. But what I found was these pilot units started going back talking to other units.
Sure.
And you had people that were doing what I did a few years ago, getting on the app store, searching for a solution, getting on online forums like Reddit, hey, I'm looking for an event management solution for our troop. Does anybody have any idea?
Yeah. So the word started to
and
get
the
out.
word started going out.
Yeah.
And this podcast is really our first serious effort to start marketing it,
Yeah.
the app, because we finally are to the point where there's a lot of stuff we still want to do with it, but I feel comfortable with the core functionality of the app that I'm ready to move forward and actually promoting it.
Yeah.
But there's more units out there using it than really I had planned.
Yeah. If I don't live in the U.S., can I still use the app?
So scouting is a global movement,
Yeah.
and there are troops and packs in many, many countries around the world. And as you can imagine, each of those countries kind of manages the scouting program a little differently,
Yeah.
which is fine because it's appropriate to that particular culture that they're in. So the Boy Scouts of America, which is now Scouting America as it's called, looks a little different than, say, a unit in another country in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
The uniforms are different. Some of the terminology is a little different. So the requirements are different. But at its core, it's still scouting, no matter what country. The outdoors type of stuff is a big part of the DNA of scouting. Now scouting has evolved, and you get a lot of STEM type of events and training that are involved. I mean, there's a chemistry merit badge, there's environmental science and stuff. So you have a lot of that in addition to the historically classic camping and backpacking type of stuff.
Right.
But to your point,
Yeah.
right now it's on the app stores, and you could download it anywhere.
So if I have a troop in Belgium, am I going to find it useful? Am I going to language?
You could download it. It's in English.
Okay.
But what you'd find is if you're in a troop in Belgium, and I'm not that familiar with the scouting program in Belgium, you'd find that it's obviously built for Scouting America.
All right.
So,
but
and that's
you have plans to maybe expand?
If there is an appetite for the app, and I think there is, we're going to see how that plays out here in the United States.
Right.
And I would say probably 75% of the app is translatable to another country.
Yeah.
There are some differences that we'd have to change. Like, say, for example, in the United States, the highest rank, here's a pop quiz for you, Dave. What's the highest rank you can earn in Scouting America?
This I know. Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout, that's right. So in, let's say, South Africa, the highest rank is not Eagle.
Okay.
It's Springbuck. So there's some changes like that,
Yeah.
that within the app, one of the scenarios that you can plan, ScoutTrek is about planning events.
Yeah.
One of the scenarios that you can choose to click on and plan is an Eagle project.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you download ScoutTrek in South Africa, you might not know what an Eagle project is.
Right.
So we'd have to do some aesthetic changes. Some things might have to change. The core functionality, I think, could be used in any country.
Right.
Event planning, event management, communication,
Yeah.
all those things are universal.
Yeah.
The language, we'd have to adopt that
Sure.
to be able to be in whatever language if it wasn't English. But I think we'll get there. We'll see how it plays out here in Scouting America.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned an appetite for the app. It looks like it's going strong in the early stages here, but that's really what we're hoping, I think, to kind of stir up a little bit here just with this podcast, is to create a bit of an appetite. Hopefully listeners are starting to get curious about testing out the app for their own troop. Is it free? Is it? What?
Yeah, so it is free. And I'm laughing because lots of times you'll hear people say something's free and it's not free.
Right.
What they really mean is, it's a free
that's-
trial. You know,
Yeah.
why is it asking for my credit card? Oh,
Right,
that's because
right.
we're going to automatically charge. No.
Yeah.
It is free. I hope it will always be free.
Yeah.
And it's free in many ways because we were very disciplined and frugal about developing the app.
Yeah.
We did not hire at the beginning a big time app development company.
Right.
We leveraged as many resources as we could to get it to the point before we said, to take it this last leg here, we have to bring in some professionals. So the plan is to keep it free. But then the question I always get was, are you just a good guy? Or, why are you doing this?
Right. Charity? Yeah.
Well, I didn't start it because I wanted to have some sort of entrepreneurial effort. right? I didn't. That's not. I did it because there was a pain point.
Yeah.
And our patrol leaders were grumbling about using emails, and the parents were grumbling about using emails. That was kind of the catalyst for it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to solve a pain point. And one of the things as I started doing this, I was talking with my wife about it, is like, well, at some point, if we're going to reinvest in it, we're going to have to figure out some sort of revenue stream on it. So we can either have pop-up ads come up, and you partner with advertising, you have pop-up ads, so you launch the app, and there's some pop-up ads, and people click on it, you get revenue from that.
Yeah. Sounds like that would disrupt the user experience.
And it does. I mean, as an example, a practical example, I won't name it, but I had a Bible app on my phone that I used to look at every morning for my morning devotional.
Yeah.
And within about 2 or 3 seconds of my morning devotional, my morning verse coming up, an ad would pop up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was disruptive, especially if it's like your morning meditation scripture. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wanted to steer away from that.
Yeah.
The other thing is you could charge for the app. It's like 99 cents to download the app, right? Or $2.99 or whatever the case is. Well, here's what's a little different with an app that you're using in an organization where everybody needs to be using it for it to be successful. We're not talking about downloading Angry Birds. If I download Angry Birds, it doesn't matter whether I paid for it or not to you.
Yeah.
But if I'm using an app that everybody on the team, sports team or a scout troop or pack is using, we need to do everything we can to make sure we take away barriers to those people that might have arguments about wanting to go to that solution.
Because of a cost barrier.
Because of the cost. And even if it's 99 cents, you're going to have people that go, I'm not paying for an app. I don't pay for apps.
Right.
I only download free apps.
Yeah.
And so then you get in a situation where half the unit is on it because they were willing to pay for it, and the other half isn't doing it because they don't want to do it, or even just one person.
Yeah.
Or you enter a situation where, okay, we're going to do it and the unit has to pay for it. Like the committee votes on it and then they figure out a way for everybody to do it, or they mandate it, which is just, we didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Another option was, well, why don't we provide the core version for free?
Yeah.
And if they want all these other bells and whistles, they pay for a premium version of the app, which I think has a lot of merit. I can't say that we won't eventually go to that.
Yeah.
But I don't like that. I kind of like the idea, and again, I'm approaching it like an end user. Just give me everything and I'll use it. And I just wanted to take away barriers from people downloading it and then deleting it. Give them everything, let them play around with it, enjoy it, and be something that they couldn't live without in their scouting unit.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at. Now, obviously, eventually, I got to figure out how to make money with it. We've got some ideas on that, because I think ScoutTrek could be much more than just an app. It could be an entire brand. We might end up partnering with some companies like REI. Obviously, if we have 1 million users and we know that our scouting community enjoys outdoor stuff, REI is probably interested in maybe us promoting some of their products to that community. So there might be some things like that we could do, but I don't want the experience to be diminished with the users who are using the app.
Well, hopefully, if you're listening, your interest has been piqued in the app. Is there any final thought that you want to leave listeners with? Next steps? How do you want to put a bow on this? Yeah,
so you can go to the website, ScoutTrek.com. SCOUT, Scout, Trek, TREK. And there's links on there where you can download it for Android or for Apple. And that was another thing that we had to put it on both platforms, because if you had a unit where half the people are using Apple and the other, it's like you had to make it as achievable as possible for people to make that their preferred solution.
Right.
So they can go to the website, or they can just go to their the Android game Play Store.
Okay.
Whatever. I have an Apple.
I have an Apple.
So whatever the App Store is for your Android, you can type in ScoutTrek or the Apple Store, You can go to that, type it in, download it. It's free. You'll have to go through registration process, and then from there, hopefully it's intuitive. There are some little things that we are tweaking because we found with some of the feedback that we've got from end users that it's like, well, we get to this screen and we can kind of figure it out, and that's very normal for any sort of app development. It's like optimizing it for the end user experience,
right?
And we want to hear that feedback.
Really, you can continuously optimize something, and I think that's at the point you're at right now.
Yeah.
It's already at maybe a 95% optimal experience for the user, but there's always going to be additional ways to improve it. And I imagine anybody trying the app, their feedback would be welcome in a comment section.
Would love their feedback.
Yeah.
And the scouting community is it's our principles to be courteous and kind and all that. It's a great position as someone who's developed an app to be doing it in scouting, because we're kind of bound to be courteous and kind in that feedback. So I get feedback from people, and they're very gracious in how they present that.
Yeah. Are you saying Twitter's not kind and courteous? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying the community of users in scouting,
a little different than maybe
it's
the
a little
wider
different than
population.
just exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
What's cool is my troop, we have made the transition. We were using WhatsApp as our main vehicle, which is mainly a communication app, right? And then we had the Google Doc on Google Drive, and we'd post that link in our WhatsApp group description where people could go to it.
Yeah.
We've completely done away with that. We have moved exclusively to ScoutTrek, and because it does everything WhatsApp did.
Yeah.
We can communicate through chat. We can create group chats for the adult leaders for specific events, and then we use ScoutTrek events to plan it. We are actually going, in 2026, our troop is going to Sea Base, one of the high adventure camps for scouting. It's in Key West, Florida. My senior patrol leader has already planned that event.
It's already on the calendar?
It's already on the calendar.
All right.
People can see that it's coming up. Obviously, we don't have reminders going out yet, but what's cool is it's so far out, and there's so much work to be done for an event like that, that it's on the calendar. We can post questions, parents can ask questions and stuff like that, and it's all grouped within that event. One of the cool things I think about ScoutTrek is when you have the chat and the questions that are going back and forth, you can have an adult to adult, one-to-one, or you can create a group chat, like I said, the committee or the PLC. And those questions or comments of that chat are stored within that group chat.
Okay.
If you have an event, let's say, like I just talked about, we're going to Sea Base in 2026. Within that event, I can put all the questions. So there's not this kind of scrolling, trying to find, well, where did he talk about whatever. We've kind of grouped the conversations. We've had logical places to group those conversations, whether it's in a group chat or whether it's something specific to that event. Right? So like we had a fundraiser a couple weeks ago, and the scouts and the parents that were participating in that fundraiser had a question. So they went to that fundraiser, and there's a section at the bottom that says questions and updates. And they posted it there. Well, from a communication management perspective, it just made it very easy to just kind of isolate questions and conversations.
That's wonderful. I hate the scrolling.
Yeah, exactly.
Searching for a needle in the haystack.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I know a lot of these functions, as you mentioned earlier, are a little hard to appreciate in a podcast, but there may be some other ways. I know you're working on a video. It's a walkthrough of the app, a demo. But we did want to start the inaugural episode of the podcast talking about why you're here, what your point of entry into kind of the wider world and serving the wider world of scouting. Future episodes, are they going to be more app-based? What can listeners expect?
I think in some ways our viewers will determine that. And if I get feedback, would say, hey, would you cover this topic or whatever? Would love to do that.
Sure.
We will be talking about the app quite a bit because that is really our main tangible product for the ScoutTrek brand right now. And we want to see that grow and units across the country start using it. But we're going to get in on the actual video podcast. We're hoping to get into lots of different stuff. So I have an idea for a series within the podcast called Merit Badge Makeover. So there's 139 merit badges in scouting for the troops.
Yeah.
And ranges a wide variety of topics, like I mentioned earlier, anything from movie making to wilderness survival.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be bringing in what I would call subject matter experts on some of these merit badges, people that can speak with authority and could actually write the requirements if we ask them to. And we're going to do what we call a makeover. We're going to go through each of the requirements, talk about why it's important. And then we're going to get this expert's advice on, look, if you were writing this, if this was a makeover, what would you add to it?
Yeah.
And so I think that would be a very interesting conversation that our community will enjoy hearing.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe some of that feedback will make it back to BSA corporate and they'll implement
Sure.
some of those suggestions.
Yeah. Well, great.
All right, so that seems like a good spot to stop. We'll probably get into some, as we get more units using ScoutTrek across the country, maybe get into some other conversations. But until next time, hope you enjoyed watching this and be watching for new episodes coming out on Outdoors with ScoutTrek. And Griffin's cereal never gets soggy. It just sits there, waiting, staying nice and crispy.